Live from the BDN Studios, it's Bang and Dang.
That's awesome.
If you don't like that, then
You ain't black.
Welcome back to Battles, American Civil War Behind the Battles. Continuing on with the Confederate. This time, it could be the most racist Confederate that we've covered. That happened as we're covering old Nathan Bedford Forrest. Yeah, he was a Civil War general, but he was also a founding member and the first Grand Wizard of the KKK.
Oh.
So he didn't like the black people, that's for sure.
I guess not.
He was a slave trader as well in the Mississippi River Valley.
Nice.
He was a Confederate state general, obviously, and had many other business interests before he went into the war, which we'll get into.
Oh.
July 13th, 1821, he was born in a secluded cabin near Chapel Hill, Tennessee. And everything secluded outside of big cities around him.
Right.
He enters the world alongside his twin sister, Fanny.
Oh.
They're also the eldest.
Fanny Forrest, huh?
Fanny Forrest. They're the eldest of 12 children.
Damn.
To Miriam, Beck, and William Forrest. They're poor, scraping by in what is now Marshall County, Tennessee. Oh, Willie, his daddy, he was English. And Miriam, she's also English. Yeah, she claims she was some Scot and Irish as well, but they trace their lineage to Shadrach Forrest. He moved from Virginia to North Carolina in the 1730s.
Oh, okay.
By 1806, family, they settled in Tennessee, where Nathan's daddy took up blacksmithing. Even though one of the most important things, and you still were frowned upon as a poor for being a blacksmith. From 1830 to 33, they lived in a simple log house, which was described by Civil War soldier John Allen Wythe as a one-room structure with a loft and no windows.
Usually how it is.
How are you going to have windows? They didn't have glass.
30s? Probably not. Maybe.
It's now preserved as a Nathan Bedford Forrest boyhood home.
What else would it be?
Right.
1834, the family relocates to Salem, Mississippi. They wanted to seek better prospects. William dies, though, in 1837. 16-year-old Nathan becomes the family's primary caretaker. He shoulders all the responsibility. By 1841, he partners with his Uncle Johnny in a business venture in Hernando, Mississippi. Tragedy strikes, though, again in 1845, when Uncle John is killed by the Matlock brothers during a dispute. Nathan retaliates quickly, shooting two brothers dead with a two-shot pistol, and wounding two others with a borrowed knife. Ooh, you never kill anybody, good thing you didn't. You don't kill anybody with a borrowed knife. Remarkably, one surviving Matlock later serves under Forrest in the Civil War.
Oh, wow. Does he know?
Wow. Nathan's early ventures include a livery stable. Livery?
Library.
A stagecoach line, and a brickyard. This earns him the reputation as a sharp Memphis speculator and a Mississippi gambler.
All right.
Good for him.
Memphis, huh? Well, by 1858, his ambition pays off as he's elected a Memphis city alderman. As he's a Southern Democrat, he serves 2 terms. He invests heavily into cotton plantations, acquiring 2 in Coahoma County, Mississippi.
Okay.
He's got a half interest in an Arkansas plantation in 1859. Plus, he owns several in West Tennessee's Delta region.
Okay.
By 1860, he owns at least 3,345 acres in Mississippi.
Damn.
And when the war breaks out in 1861, his fortune claims at $1.5 million. Mm-hmm. And that's that money in 1861. So that makes him one of the South's wealthiest men as well. He didn't even have to go to war.
Right. Standing 6 feet 2 inches, weighing 180 pounds.
A little light for his height.
And he's a little skinny guy. Forrest cuts an imposing figure. A tireless rider, skilled swordsman. He's described by the United States Army Captain Louis Jose as having a striking and commanding presence.
So, is he our first guy that didn't go to West Point?
All right.
Fremont didn't either.
Yeah, Fremont, yeah. He also said he's a very mild-mannered most of the time. Forrest's temper flares when provoked, as anybody else would. He rarely drinks. He avoids tobacco. And despite no formal education, he writes clear. He's grammatical English. Though, his spelling's a little bit shaky.
Have you read any letters from this time period? They're all fucking shaky.
He's also a Freemason.
Yeah.
And he joins but never advances beyond the entered apprentice degree.
No 33rd degree for you.
Yeah.
More about his family. Tragedy struck earlier in their family when typhoid fever claimed 2 of his 8 brothers, 3 of his 4 sisters. all about the same time.
Damn.
He contracts the disease but survives. His father, oh, that's how his dad died. His dad, William, recovers from that disease, but he dies to lingering effects in 1837.
And what are you going to do?
Which leads Nathan as the family's caretaker. His own mama, she remarries James Horatio Luxton in 1843 and added 4 more children to the family.
Damn.
Nathan's younger brother, John, William, Aaron, Jesse, and Jeffrey, they all joined him in the slave trade before the Civil War.
Family business, baby.
They amassed all the wealth in Mississippi and Tennessee.
All of it?
Yeah. Oh. All but John, a disabled Mexican-American war veteran, served as Confederate officers during the war.
Okay.
Nathan's son, William Forrest, acts as his aide-de-camp, while his half-brother, Matt, with 1 T, serves as a sergeant and scout in his cavalry.
Oh, fucking yeah. Look at that shit. 1845, age of 24, Forrest marries Mary Ann Montgomery. She's a 19-year-old looker raised by her Presbyterian minister uncle. Ooh. Okay. They, too, have children. 2 of them.
2 of them.
William Montgomery Bedford Forrest, born in 1846.
Too long.
Who joins his father in the Civil War at just 15 years old. And got to name my little baby after my twin sister, Fanny. She's born in 1849. Who tragically dies just 5 short years later in 1854. Reports from 1864 also mention 2 children, Thomas and Narcissa, allegedly born to Forrest, and an enslaved woman named Catherine, adding a layer of complexity to his personal life.
Oh, he's got a grandson.
Nope.
Nathan Bedford Forrest II, born in 1872. Nice. He ends up rising to commander-in-chief of the Sons of the Confederate Veterans and becomes a Grand Dragon of the KKK.
Oh, wow.
Which he served as secretary of the National Organization as well.
Yeah, just a racist family, huh? No.
His great-grandson, Nathan Bedford Forrest III, born in 1905, graduates from West Point.
Hey.
And becomes a brigadier general in the Army Air Corps.
Look at that.
1943, he's killed during a bombing raid over Nazi Germany.
Oh.
First American general to die in combat in Europe during the war.
Oh, shit.
Oh, wow. Really?
Okay.
That was his paying for his granddaddy's sins.
Right. 1864, Parson Bromlow, he scorned Nathan as a sin-hardened Negro trader, a livery stableman of Memphis. This captured his notoriety as one of the South's leading slave traders from 1851 to 1860. Old Forrest, he was among Memphis's Big 4 slave traders, operating in Tennessee's premier slave market. Known for phenomenally large dealings, he likely sold thousands of enslaved people, amassing profits in the hundreds of thousands in $1850, so very millions. Mm-hmm. Based primarily in Memphis, Forrest, he expanded his operations by opening a second storefront in Vicksburg in 1858.
A storefront instead of mannequins in the windows. They got real people.
His experience as a trader later bolstered his Civil War ambitions, as he wrote in a request for command. I have resided on the Mississippi for over 20 years, was for many years engaged in buying and selling Negroes, and know the country perfectly well between Memphis and Vicksburg. Well, it's not very big.
Well, Forrest's career evolved through partnerships. He began as an independent trader, then partnered with Seaborn S. Jones, followed by Bird Hill, a seasoned manager of slave marts. Next, he
Slave marts.
Welcome to Slave Mart.
Slave mart.
Next, he joined Josiah Maples, returned to solo operations, and later reunited with Jones. From Forrest and Maples' era, his business operated out of 87 Adams Street in Memphis, a hub where multiple traders maintained slave pens and auction yards, creating an efficient, grim business cluster.
Oh, wow.
The human cost is starkly illustrated by Nellie Harbold, who after the war placed a family reunification and seeking her father, Lydia, Miley, and Samuel Turley, who were sold to different buyers from the yard of Forrest the Trader in 1854.
Fuck. Though traditionally linked to training by Bolton, Dickens and Company, a massive slave trading firm, recent research suggests this connection may be apocryphal. With the 1857 completion of the Memphis and Charleston Railroad, Forrest began transporting enslaved people from South Carolina to Tennessee, including a carpenter named Richard and a man named Bent, both of whom escaped their new owners.
Good for them. He was like, get Bent.
Right. 1859, media attention spotlighted Forrest's sale of an enslaved girl, rumored to be Frederick Douglass's daughter, which is likely to be Anna Marie Bailey, Douglass's niece, highlighting the era's brutal common modification of human lives. Yeah, there's crazy.
Why didn't Frederick Douglass buy her? It's like popular right around now.
Yeah, you didn't care.
Yes. Among the servants offered for sale by a Mr. Forrest of Memphis, Tennessee, is a girl who is known to be the daughter of the notorious Fred Douglass, the free N-word abolitionist. She is said to be of the class known among the dealers as a likely girl, and is a native of North Carolina. She remembers her parent very vividly, having seen him during the last visit to the old North State. The Memphis Avalanche suggests that as Fred is able to make the outlay, he should either purchase his own flesh and blood from servitude,
Right.
or seize his shrieks over an institution which possesses such untold horrors.
Oh.
And this is said from the Winchester, Tennessee Home Journal in 1859.
Oh.
Yeah, so they're like, why don't you buy her back?
Wow. Also in 1859, there was a federal investigation. It exposes Nathan Bedford Forrest's involvement in selling 37 individuals illegally, which were imported from Africa aboard the slave ship Wanderer. Yeah, 'cause-
Even though slave trading was legal, you couldn't buy them from Africa. at this
no,
time.
you couldn't do that no more. That was like 1830 something.
Right.
The transatlantic slave trade had been banned in the United States since 1808. My bad. Making this a brazen violation. Forrest, he's a vocal advocate for reopening the trade.
I bet he is.
He later admits to an interviewer that he was an initial investor in the Wanderer shipment, revealing the depth of his commitment to the slave economy. By this time, Forrest is a leading figure in Memphis' slave market, operating Forrest Jones and Company. This happened to be operating at 87 Adams Street.
Well, in January 1860, disaster strikes. The New York Times reports that the firm's Negro Mart building collapses and catches fire, killing 2 people.
Damn.
Remarkably, bills of sale for enslaved individuals totaling $400,000, which is about $14 million today, they're salvaged from the wreckage. Right. ID badges. Forrest had recently relocated to the business to 89 Adams Street, expanding his capacity from 300 to 500 enslaved people.
Wow.
A move that amplified his operations.
Seems a little fishy.
Right. The collapse prompts Forrest to sell his stake in the slave trading business, redirecting his profits into cotton plantations, further solidifying his wealth as the Civil War looms.
I mean, he's still basically involved in a
Right.
slave market there.
Well, the site of his slave mart, which is now owned by Calvary Episcopal Church in downtown Memphis, is marked by a historical plaque dedicated April 4, 2018.
Fantastic.
It stands as a somber reminder of the human suffering tied to Forrest's enterprise.
Yeah, what are you going to do? June 1861. Civil War ignites, splits a nation in half. Forrest leaves his lucrative Mississippi plantations and enlists in the Confederate States Army as a private at Fort Wright, which is near Randolph in Tennessee. He joins Captain Josiah White's Tennessee Mountain Rifles, which is part of the 17th Tennessee Cavalry.
7th.
Right. Alongside his youngest brother and his 15-year-old son, William.
Jeez. Stunned by the Confederacy's lack of resources, Forrest, a millionaire,
What do you think they were going to have?
right, he offers to personally fund horses and equipment for the regiment of Tennessee Volunteers. His wealth and status shock his superiors, and Tennessee Governor Isham G. Harris, who expected prominent planters like Forrest to claim exemptions from service, right. Impressed, they commissioned him as a lieutenant colonel in July 1861 just because he has money,
Right.
tasking him with raising and training a battalion of mounted rangers. By October, he commands the 3rd Tennessee Cavalry all on his own.
Good for him.
Crazy.
Despite no formal military training, Forrest, he quickly proves his tactical prowess and leadership. He forms an elite escort company.
Uh-oh.
He called his special forces. He had about 40 to 90 handpicked soldiers, the cream of his cavalry. But his leadership style is very brutal. To enforce discipline, he strikes a scout's head against a tree for faulty intelligence. Oh, he shoves a hesitant lieutenant into a river during a bridge building. He hits a soldier with an oar for refusing to paddle across the Tennessee River. He beats 2 fleeing soldiers with a branch. He shoots one who carried the colors.
Oh. You can't flee while carrying the colors, bud.
Right. His harsh treatment of prisoners and subordinates alienates many, with soldiers and junior officers often refusing to even serve under this madman.
Well, Tennessee's decision to join the Confederacy sparks heated debate, with over 100,000 men fighting for the South and 31,000 for the U.S. Army.
Damn.
Forrest leans into the conflict with zeal, posting recruitment ads for his regiment with a blunt slogan, "Let's have some fun and kill some Yankees."
Oh, all right.
His charisma and drive rally troops, but his methods foreshadow the fierce reputation he'll build on the battlefield. Hey, man.
Wow.
He's like thinking he's treating them like all of his slaves and shit.
Wow. December 1861. Winter's raging on. Nathan Bedford Forrest. He's now a 40-year-old lieutenant colonel. You don't even have no military training. He proves his mettle at the Battle of Sacramento in Kentucky. He led his 3rd Tennessee Cavalry in his 1st field command. He personally spearheads a bold charge that routs a United States Army force. Brigadier General Charles Clark, he later hails his performance, marking Forrest as a rising star in the Confederate ranks. I'm gonna write songs about this motherfucker.
Right. By February of 62, Forrest faced a tougher test at the Battle of Fort Donelson, Tennessee. We know how that ends up. His cavalry captures a U.S. artillery battery, a key moment in the fight. But when Ulysses Grant's siege threatens to trap the Confederate garrison, Forrest, he refuses to surrender. Rallying nearly 4,000 troops, he leads a daring breakout across the icy Cumberland River, escaping Grant's grasp and preserving his command.
Ooh.
But you lost Fort Donelson, guy.
Yeah, that was rough. Days after Fort Donelson's fall, Nashville on the brink of capture by the United States forces as well. Forrest takes charge of the city's evacuation. He organized a frantic effort, commandeering every cart and wagon to haul 600 boxes of army clothing, 250,000 pounds of bacon.
Yeah, right. Get that bacon out of there.
40 wagon loads of ammunition.
250,000 pounds of bacon? Good Lord.
Yeah. 40 wagon loads of ammo to railroad depots for shipment to Chattanooga and Decatur. He demonstrated strategic foresight. He also ensures heavy ordnance machinery, including a cutting-edge cannon rifle, 14 cannons.
Cannon rifling machine.
Oh, okay. 14 cannons, Nashville armory parts. That's all sent to Atlanta, bolstering the Confederate war effort for a minute.
April 1862, he's now a lieutenant colonel. He faces one of the Civil War's fiercest fights at the Battle of Shiloh.
Oh.
That was a U.S. victory, April 6th through the 7th. He commands a Confederate rear guard to cover the retreat. That's basically all he's doing.
Right.
During the skirmish at Fallen Timbers, he spots a gap in the U.S. skirmish line and charges through, urging his 3rd Tennessee Cavalry forward. Unbeknownst to him, his men halt when they encounter a full U.S. brigade.
Ooh.
You gotta go, bud. You gotta turn back.
Wow. Well, Forrest, he said, He's undeterred. He plunges alone into the enemy ranks. Surrounded by bluecoats, he unloads his Colt Army revolvers into the swarm of United States soldiers. Then he draws his saber, slashing and hacking in a desperate melee. A U.S. infantryman fires a musket ball at point-blank range, striking Forrest's pelvis and lodging near his spine, nearly toppling him from his horse. A week later, a surgeon removes the bullet without anesthesia. Unavailable in the field,
I would assume.
this cemented Forrest's reputation for grit.
Damn.
How the hell you get out of there?
All right. Well, by early summer, recovered and promoted, Forrest takes command of the new brigade of Green Cavalry Regiments. In July, under orders for a raid into Middle Tennessee, he leads them to the first Battle of Murfreesboro, July 13th. Striking swiftly, his force overwhelms the U.S. garrison. Every U.S. unit surrenders, and the Confederates wreck vital supply and railroad tracks, disrupting the operations in the region for the U.S. This victory showcases Forrest's knack for bold, decisive action, even with untested troops. He said, I don't care.
Fantastic, huh? July 21st, 1862. He's now 41. He's promoted to brigadier general. He's given command of the Confederate Cavalry Brigade. But in December, General Braxton Bragg, he reassigns Forrest's seasoned troopers to another officer, ignoring his protest. He said, no, I'm sorry, bud. So now, Forrest, he's forced to recruit a new brigade of about 2,000 green soldiers, most without weapons. He faces a daunting task. Bragg, he orders him to launch raids to disrupt United States Army communications under Grant, who threatens Vicksburg, Mississippi. Forrest, he's like, he argues that sending untrained men behind enemy lines is suicidal. But Bragg's like, and Forrest complies.
Oh, but riding by yourself into a whole U.S. Army garrison isn't?
Right, so Forrest complies with the orders. From late 1862 into 1864, Forrest leads his makeshift brigade on a series of bold raids. He strikes into the West Tennessee as far north as the Ohio River in southwest Kentucky. And he also goes into the northern Mississippi.
Or pursued by thousands of United States soldiers, Forrest's fast-moving pace avoids capture by never lingering in one place. His hit-and-run tactics frustrate the enemy, and he returns to his Mississippi base with more men than he started with.
Oh, look at that shit.
Who are now all armed with captured U.S. weapons.
Damn.
These raids force Grant to delay and revise his Vicksburg campaign strategy, a testament to Forrest's disruptive impact. Sylvanus Cadwallader, a newspaper correspondent who traveled with Grant for 3 years, he writes that Forrest was the only Confederate cavalryman of whom Grant stood in much dread.
Oh.
Wow.
Wow. By 1862, the United States Army, they seized control of Tennessee. They occupied key cities and railroads for the rest of the Civil War. Undeterred, though, Forrest keeps his Confederate cavalry active in small-scale operations. Early 1863, he leads his men into clashes like the Battle of Dover and the Battle of Brentwood. He harasses United States forces in maintaining pressure in the region. April of 1863, the old rebels, they send Forrest on a critical mission with a small force into the backcountry of northern Alabama and western Georgia.
Well, their target there was a 3,000-strong U.S. cavalry unit led by Colonel Abel Strait. Their task was severing the Confederate Railroad. Strait was tasked with severing the Confederate Railroad south of Chattanooga. If successful, he could cut General Braxton Bragg's supply lines, forcing a retreat into Georgia. Forrest, who was outnumbered, he pursued Strait's men for 16 grueling days, harrying themselves with relentless skirmishes. Strait's mission shifts from sabotage to survival now, as Forrest's dogged pursuit wears down his troops.
Okay.
May 3rd, 1863, Forrest, he catches up with them at Cedar Bluff, Alabama. Wow.
Ooh-wee. Despite having way less men, Forrest employs a brilliant ruse. He repeatedly parading a portion of his force around a hilltop to create the illusion of a large army. Exhausted and deceived, Strait surrenders his roughly 1,500 troops. Forrest's tactical deception secures a stunning victory, preserving Bragg's supply line and bolstering his reputation as a master of cavalry warfare. Look at Jeb Stuart. He's jealous.
Like, man.
What the fuck? This racist piece of shit.
June of 1863, he faces a violent confrontation off the battlefield. Lieutenant Andrew Willis Gold, he's an artillery officer under Forrest's command. He's being transferred, likely due to enemy forces spiking his cannons during the Battle of Days Gap. June 13th, Gold confronts Forrest about the transfer, and the argument erupts into violence.
Oh, shit.
Gold shoots Forrest in the left side, a wound thought to be fatal at the time. Forrest, in turn, mortally stabs Gold. Defying expectations, he recovers in time to fight in the Chickamauga campaign, once again showing his resilience. Jeez, dude.
All right. Well, at the Battle of Chickamauga, which happened on September 18th to the 20th, 1863, Forrest serves with the main Confederate Army under General Braxton Bragg. He's pursuing the retreating United States Army. He also captures hundreds of prisoners, adding to his fearsome reputation. Like other subordinates, Forrest urges an immediate attack to retake Chattanooga, which was lost weeks earlier. But Bragg, he's like, let me think about that.
I don't think we can do that, bud.
Frustrated, Forrest reportedly snaps, "What does he fight battles for?" However, Forrest isn't blameless for the missed opportunity.
And we all know nobody liked Bragg either, so... Well, throughout the Chattanooga campaign, he and General Joseph Wheeler, they failed to gather critical intelligence on U.S. positions.
You got to do that.
Partly because Forrest wasn't beating his scouts' heads into trees anymore at this time. And also because he often dives into thick of combat. Yeah, neglecting reconnaissance. He just goes straight for it.
Damn right.
On the battle's first day, he moves his troop north up a creek with a shit creek with a paddle or without. Misreading a threat instead of screening the Confederate advance as ordered. This delays the infantry's push, allowing U.S. General William Rosecrans to bolster defenses. That night, Forrest skipped screening the Army's right flank, missed a wide gap in the U.S. lines, which is a blunder called the most significant intelligence oversight of the entire battle.
Wow.
The next morning, his poorly planned attack causes heavy casualties and stalls the Confederate counterattack.
Yeah, okay, bud. After that battle, Bragg sends Forrest and Wheeler north to disrupt Rosecrans' supply line from Nashville. This was aimed to weaken Chattanooga's United States grip. Forrest, he diverts to Knoxville, however, allowing Rosecrans to solidify his hold. What an idiot. Furious, Bragg labels Forrest nothing more than a good raider, and he orders his transfer to western Tennessee to get this fucker out of here. A legendary tale which is now considered apocryphal. which claims Forrest confronted Bragg, threatening his life and calling him a coward, vowing, "You might as well not give me any orders, for I will not obey them." Wow. Though likely exaggerated, the story, repeated in Forrest-approved biographies,
Of course, because it makes him look good.
right, reflects his contempt for Bragg's leadership. They just didn't like each other. Happens.
December 4th, 1863, he's promoted to Major General. By the 25th of March, 1864, he leads a raid on Paducah, Kentucky, in the Battle of Paducah. Demanding U.S. Colonel Stephen Hicks surrender, Forrest warns, "If I have to storm your works, you may expect no quarter."
Oh.
Hicks refuses, and per his report, Forrest's men set up guns under a flag of truce, advancing prematurely. Oh, that's not... See, Forrest?
Yeah, that's dirty.
U.S. forces then opened fire, repulsing 3 Confederate assaults. The failed attack underscores Forrest's aggressive, but sometimes stupid and reckless approach.
Right. Oh, wow. 12th of April, 1864, Fort Pillow.
Yeah, this is... He's really taking the racist stuff to a whole new level here.
Yeah, which is a former Confederate stronghold, which is 40 miles upriver from Memphis, Tennessee. It's defended by 557 United States Army troops. 295 of them are white, 262 of them are black. This is commanded by Major L.F. Booth. It was seized by the United States forces in 1862, so they've been holding it for 2 years. The fort sits on the Mississippi River bluffs, a strategic prize. Forrest arrives at 10 a.m. after a grueling ride from Mississippi, during which 2 horses were shot from under him. Damn. His 1,500-man force, led by Brigadier General James R. Chalmers, launches an attack. Booth and his adjutant are killed early, leaving Major William Bradford in command.
By 3:30 p.m., Forrest deems the fort untenable for the U.S. defenders. He then raises a flag of truce, demanding surrender, and warning Bradford that he cannot control his men's actions if forced to storm the fortifications, a tactic Forrest often used to avoid heavy casualties.
Right.
Bradford, banking on escape via the U.S. Navy gunboat USS New Era, he refuses. When Forrest's men overrun the fort, U.S. troops retreat to the river's lower bluffs, but the gunboat never arrives.
That gunboat ain't coming. Wow, what follows is the Fort Pillow Massacre. United States soldiers attempt to surrender. Forrest's men, they say, you had your chance. We're shooting you. And they do. They slaughter both black and white troops. Historians John Simprick and Bruce Tapp, they report a stark disparity.
What do they do?
2/3 of black soldiers were killed compared to 1/3 of white soldiers, despite roughly equal numbers. The violence spills into the night with allegations of horrific brutality, shooting fleeing soldiers in the back, killing the wounded, burning men alive, nailing soldiers to barrels and setting them ablaze, crucifying others, and hacking men to death with sabers. Ooh, yeah.
Well, reports claim Forrest's men set fire to a barracks containing wounded soldiers. Confederate accounts, echoed in newspapers like one from Jackson, Tennessee, they claim Forrest begged them to surrender, but saw no sign of formal capitulation, noting the U.S. flag still flew. They argue U.S. soldiers kept weapons, firing while fleeing, forcing Confederates to shoot in self-defense. These claims are contradicted by U.S. survivors and a damning letter from Achilles Clark, which he was a Confederate soldier in the 20th Tennessee Cavalry, so I think he would know.
Yeah. He wrote to his sisters right after the battle. Clark vividly describes a deliberate massacre, undermining Confederate justifications. He writes, "The slaughter was awful. Words cannot describe the scene. The poor, deluded Negroes would run up to our men, fall upon their knees, and with uplifted hands scream for mercy. But they were ordered to their feet and then shot down. The white men fared but little better. Their fort turned out to be a great slaughter pen. Blood, human blood, stood about in pools. Brains could have been gathered up in any quantity."
Jeez.
Oh, shit.
Jeez.
Damn.
After the massacre, Forrest, he takes steps to manage the fallout. He transfers the 14 most seriously wounded United States colored troops to the U.S. steamer Silver Cloud for medical care. Ooh.
Oh, all right.
The 226 surviving U.S. prisoners, including 7 officers and 219 white enlisted men, they're marched under guard to Holly Springs, Mississippi, then convoyed to Demopolis, Alabama.
Okay.
April 21st, Captain John Goodwin of Forrest's command, he lists these prisoners in a dispatch. However, So he's got to be a historian doing something. Richard Fuches, he notes that the records about the fate of the black prisoners are either non-existent or unreliable.
Okay.
Leaving their outcomes shrouded in mystery. President Lincoln, horrified, consults his cabinet on how to respond to the massacre, signaling its national significance.
Like, do we do the same thing?
Right, like...
The massacre sparks outrage in the North. Union and Republican-aligned cartoonist Thomas Nast, he repeatedly skewers Forrest, ironically awarding him a Fort Pillow medal in a dozen cartoons, cementing his image as a symbol of white supremacy and the lost cause. General Grant, now commanding the United States forces in the East, he writes in his memoirs that Forrest's battle report left out the part which shocks humanity to read, condemning the omissions. New York Tribune correspondent in Knoxville, he brands Forrest and his brothers slave drivers and women whippers.
Oh, woman whipper.
Wow. Woman whippers.
This is what instead of wife beaters, woman whippers.
He called them mean, vindictive, cruel, and unscrumptious.
Yeah, unscrumptious.
Isn't vindictive and cruel? No, I guess mean, vindictive, and cruel. And you can be one of those, but all three of those things?
Right.
Oh, and then unscrumptious?
Unscrumptious.
In contrast, the old rebel newspapers, they staunchly defend Forrest, framing the massacre as a justified response to an armed resistance.
I bet you would. Forrest himself leverages the massacre to intimidate. Yeah, look what happened at Fort Pillow. Fuck with me now. Mm-hmm. A historian of the Cumberland River Valley notes that Forrest, aware of the growing recruitment of black troops, saw Fort Pillow as a warning. In his report, he exaggerates U.S. casualties and he declares, "It is hoped that these facts will demonstrate to the Northern people that Negro soldiers cannot cope with Southerners," aiming to deter the use of black soldiers.
Right.
S.C. Gwynn, he writes that Forrest's responsibility remains debated. He says no direct evidence suggested that he ordered the shooting of the surrendering or unarmed men, but to fully exonerate him from responsibility is also impossible.
Right.
The massacre, whether by his command or his men's actions, stains his legacy.
Of course it does.
Well, and plus there's, leading the KKK and
Right.
all that other shit.
Holy shit.
I think without this, he would have been a pretty terrible human being.
Yeah, 10th of June, 1864. He delivers his most decisive victory at the Battle of Bryce's Crossroads. This happens in northeastern Mississippi. He commands 3,500 rebel soldiers, which are on horseback. He faces 8,500 U.S. troops under Brigadier General Samuel Sturgis. This was sent to stop Forrest from wrecking United States supply lines and fortifications. Forrest's superior tactics and mobility shine through as he positions his men to ambush Sturgis's force. When the old Blue Coats armies reach the crossroads, their advance collides with Forrest's cavalry, and shit's about to break loose.
Sturgis and his wary infantry wilting under the heat. He orders them to counterattack, but Forrest's relentless pressure breaks their lines, triggering a chaotic retreat. Forrest then unleashes a full cavalry charge, capturing 16 artillery pieces, 176 wagons, and 1,500 small arms.
Okay.
His losses are light, with only 96 killed and 396 wounded, while the United States, they suffer 223 killed and 394 wounded. Plus another 1,623 are missing.
Damn.
The Black Regiment under Sturgis, still reeling from Fort Pillow's shadow, discards Remember Fort Pillow badges during the retreat, fearing Confederate retaliation. Yeah, they're taking that shit off. This victory cements Forrest's reputation as a master of mobile warfare, allowing him to keep harassing U.S. forces in southwestern Tennessee and northern Mississippi.
Look at this guy. 1 month later, in July of 1864, he's serving under General Stephen D. Lee. He meets a rare defeat at the Battle of Tupelo, which is in Mississippi. Major General William Sherman, wary of Forrest's threat to United States supply lines, he dispatches a force under Major General Andrew Smith. He said, "Go neutralize him. I don't even want to hear about this motherfucker." In that very clash, United States troops drive Forrest's Confederates from the field. Old Forrest, he's wounded in the foot. He escapes with his command intact, though bloodied. Despite the loss, he remains a thorn in the United States Army's side, continuing to disrupt their operations in the West until the war's end.
In the summer and fall of 1864, he keeps the U.S. Army on edge with a series of bold raids. In August, he leads a daring incursion into the U.S.-held Memphis during the Second Battle of Memphis, striking the heart of enemy territory. November 4th, his cavalry targets a major U.S. Army supply depot in Johnsonville, Tennessee.
Okay.
That's in the Battle of Johnsonville. They were fighting over brats.
Yeah.
His forces shelled the city, sinking 3 gunboats, nearly 30 other ships, and destroying tons of supplies, dealing a severe blow to the United States logistics in the Western Theater.
Ooh-wee.
30 other ships, jeez.
Damn, later that month, Forrest joins General John Bell Hood's Tennessee campaign, serving under the new commander of the Confederate Army of Tennessee. 30th of November, at the Battle of Franklin, the Second Battle of Franklin, the old rebels face a catastrophic defeat against United States Major General John M. Schofield's army. Forrest, sensing opportunity, he argues fiercely with Hood, demanding permission to cross the Harpeth River and cut off Schofield's retreat. Hood says no, and by the time Forrest attempts to maneuver, it's too late.
So Forrest denied it. Hood denied it, and Forrest was like, I'm going anyways.
Right. And Schofield's forces, they escape. The bitter dispute underscores Forrest's frustration with Hood's leadership.
I think it's you a problem now, Forrest.
Yeah, and also highlights the old rebels' dwindling chances. Yeah, they're about ready to... 1864, yeah, shit's going downhill.
Yeah, after that devastating loss at Franklin. Hood, he presses on to Nashville. He then orders Forrest to launch an independent raid against the U.S. garrison at Murfreesboro. There's like 5 of those battles. Right. Forrest achieves Hood's objectives, but December 5th, during the Third Battle of Murfreesboro, part of his command falters and flees under pressure from U.S. forces.
Aww. The setback is a rare blemish on Forrest's record. Days later, the Battle of Nashville, which happened on the 15th and 16th of December. Hood's Army of Tennessee had 40,000 infantry and 10 to 15,000 cavalry. Is all but annihilated by the United States.
Yeah.
Forrest shines in the defeat, though, commanding the old rebel rear guard in a series of skillful actions that allow the remnants of the army to get the fuck out of Dodge. His leadership earns him a promotion to lieutenant general on March 2nd, 1865, just as the war is about to end. However, on the 25th of December, a dismounted portion of command is caught off guard and captured at Verona, Mississippi during the United States cavalry raid, led by Brigadier General Benjamin Grierson.
Okay.
Cool.
Well, spring of 1865, he leads a faltering defense of Alabama against Wilson's raid.
Yeah.
April 2nd, Brigadier General James Wilson defeats Forrest at the Battle of Selma, which is a crushing blow. They got nothing left. A week later, Robert E. Lee surrenders, signaling the Confederacy's collapse. Learning of his surrender, Forrest follows suit. Oh.
Wow.
May 9th, 1865, in Gainesville, Alabama, he delivers a farewell address to his men, urging them to submit to the powers to be and to aid in restoring peace and establishing law and order throughout the land.
A month later.
Marking the end of his military career.
Look at that. Wow. After the Civil War ends in 1865, he faces a devastating financial blow with the abolition of slavery.
Yeah, what are you going to do now, guy?
As a former slave owner and trader, his wealth, built on human bondage, crumbles. Returning to civilian life in Memphis, Forrest turns to new ventures. During the war, he took an interest in Crowley's Ridge, which is in Arkansas. And in 1866, he partners with C.C. McCreaner to complete the Memphis and Little Rock Railroad. Oh, good for him. He secured a right-of-way over the ridge. Oh. Forrest builds a ridgetop commissary to supply 1,000 Irish laborers laying the tracks, which becomes the heart of settlement dubbed Forrest's Town, which was incorporated in 1870 as Forrest City, Arkansas. It stands as a testament to his influence. Does it, though?
However, Forrest struggles to win favor in Memphis's white business community. Historian Court Carney notes that his questionable business practices and defaults on debts alienate many local entrepreneurs, tarnishing his reputation. Undeterred, he takes a leadership role at the Selma-based Marion and Memphis Railroad. Don't they always? Some railroad. Eventually becoming the president. His wartime brilliance doesn't translate to railroading, and under his stewardship, the company goes bankrupt, nearly ruining his reputation altogether.
Oh, Forrest, what are you doing, bud? By the 1870s, a financially strained Forrest, he leases an 800-acre farm on President's Island, which is on the Mississippi River.
Oh, yeah, financially strained by 800 acres.
Right. He's living with his wife, Mary Ann. It's a modest log cabin. He employs about 100 prison convicts to grow corn, potatoes, vegetables, cotton, and he turned some profit. Oh, look at that. But his health took a sharp decline. In May of 1877, critics condemned his use of convict labor as akin to slavery, pointing to bloodhounds, shotgun-wielding guards, and corporal punishment. I mean, they can leave whenever. I guess they can. They got shotgun-wielding guards.
They're prisoners.
Right. They argue the system is exploitative with convict farmers like Forrest benefiting from a corrupt legal system that convicts black men to meet their labor demands, leaving them to steal or starve.
1873, the Virginius affair threatens to ignite war between the United States and Spain. The Virginius, a U.S. flagship, is captured by Spanish authorities off Cuba for running guns to Cuban rebels with some of Forrest's former Confederate comrades among its filibuster crew.
Just never got along with Cuba ever, huh?
Yeah. Well, Nathan, he's now 52, living in Memphis, sees an opportunity to return to the battlefield. He pens a letter to William Sherman, who's the general-in-chief of the Army right now, and he's offering his services should war erupt.
Sherman, who clashed with Forrest during the war and respected his formidable skills, he responds after the crisis de-escalates peacefully. He graciously thanks Forrest for the offer, noting that had war broken out, it would have been an honor to serve alongside him. This exchange, a rare moment of reconciliation between two wartime foes, underscores Forrest's endearing reputation as a warrior, a racist warrior, even as he navigates a post-war South grappling with Reconstruction, right? Still got totally different views.
It's like modern-day politics now. Right. Just because they were on opposite sides of the war, these guys, they all grew up together and knew each other any damn ways. They love each other. Mm-hmm. In the spring of 1866, going back now, the KKK forms in Pulaski, Tennessee, which was founded by 6 Confederate veterans as a secret social club.
All right.
By late 66 or early 67, it morphs into a violent organization spreading across the South. And old Nathan, he becomes involved, likely encouraged by former Confederate general and Tennessee Klan leader George Gordon. Forrest attends a KKK meeting at Nashville's Maxwell House. Oh, is that the copy? In April of 1867. With the Klan's ranks swelling, it needs an experienced commander. And old Forrest, who's renowned as the Wizard of the Saddle during the war, he's a natural fit.
Damn right he is. In room 10 at the hotel, he is sworn in by John Morton, taking the title of Grand Wizard. This is the Klan's first and only national leader. Oh, wow. KKK member James Crow, he later recalls, "We chose General Forrest to lead the growing order," while another member confirms, "Forrest was known as the Grand Wizard." Historian Jack Hurst writes that Forrest, as the Klan's leader, it transformed it into a reactionary instrument of terror, embodying the lost causes, vengeful spirit. Yeah, the lost causers, dude. They were some evil motherfuckers.
As Reconstruction unfolds, Congress passes the Reconstruction Acts, setting conditions for ex-Confederate states' readmission, including ratifying the 14th Amendment in 1868 that was for citizenship and equal protection, plus the 15th Amendment in 1870 for black male voting rights.
Look at that shit.
Well, the Klan, composed of white Southerners, yes, they initially tried persuasion in the August 1867 Tennessee elections, with Forrest helping maintain order, according to historian Brian Steele Wills. When those efforts fail, the Klan violence surges. They said, all right, we can't get in, we'll take what we want.
Damn right. Andrew Ward, he describes Forrest and his dragoons launching a campaign of midnight parades, ghost masquerades, and whipping, and even killing Negro voters, and even white Republicans. They did that to suppress black voting and political participation. They didn't want the blacks to do anything but pick their cotton and watch their kids. By 1868, Forrest's travels for an insurance venture with business partners' aid in spreading Klan rituals and influence. He's like, let's go and spread this shit across the whole country. And in 1868, Cincinnati newspaper interview, Forrest claims the KKK boasts 40,000 members in Tennessee and 550,000 across the South. Ooh, you think that was that much?
Probably.
That's a lot. He expresses sympathy for the group, describing it as a protective political military organization, sworn to uphold the United States government, but formed to counter loyal leagues and the Grand Army of the Republic. Mm-hmm.
Sounds like insurrectionist to me. He denies formal ties, yet boasts he could rally thousands himself. January 1869, after a year as Grand Wizard, Forrest grows frustrated with the Klan's increasingly violent and ungovernable members.
Right.
He orders the organization dissolved and its costumes destroyed, withdrawn from participation. His decree has little impact. Few Klansmen comply, and the KKK persists. An 1871 U.S. Congressional Committee report notes that Forrest and other influential men used their moral power to urge disbandment, citing the Klan's natural tendency towards violence and crime.
Right. I didn't start off like this, but you guys are going a little insane here. I'm out.
Well, and if it wasn't for him, they would have never got that way.
1868, the KKK under Forrest extends its reach into the Democratic Party's campaign for the United States presidential election. Forrest, alongside other prominent ex-Confederates like South Carolina's Wade Hampton, they attend the DNC as a delegate, held at Tammany Hall's headquarters in 141 East 14th Street, New York City. New York City!
If you guys listened to our Outlaw the Gunslingers episode, you would know the Tammany Hall was a major. Yeah. They basically ran the show in New York for sure.
Yeah,
and was in with the mob because they were with the what was it, the 5 Points gang or something like that?
I think so.
Back in the day.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. En route to New York City, Forrest's train stops near a small town. This is where a local fighter confronts him. He's shouting, "Damn butcher!" and threatening to thrash him, likely referencing Forrest's Fort Pillow infamy. Yeah, we all know that. As Forrest rises and approaches, the challenger's bravado fades, and he backs down, underscoring Forrest's intimidating presence. Like, that. I just fucking yell at you from across the street. Fuck.
Well, at the convention, former New York Governor Horatio Seymour is nominated as the Democratic presidential candidate. And Forrest's friend Francis Preston Blair Jr. is his vice presidential running mate.
Yeah, they have no chance.
The Seymour-Blair ticket adopts a brazenly racist campaign slogan, which is, "Our ticket, our motto. This is a white man's country. Let white men rule."
Whoa.
This is the white man's world. The Democratic platform denounces Reconstruction Acts designed to secure rights for the formerly enslaved people. They say it's unconstitutional, void, and revolutionary. It calls for dismantling the Freedmen's Bureau and ending policies aiding black Southerners, aligning with the KKK's aim to restore white dominance. The Klan's influence bolsters the Democrats' appeal to white voters resentful of the Reconstruction, though it ultimately backfires.
I bet it does.
Republicans seize on the Democratic's platform, painting them as disloyal for their wartime and post-war stance. And that strengthens the GOP's campaign. Like, you bunch of ungrateful sons of bitches.
Boy, how things haven't changed. Right. 1868, Forrest escalates its campaign of brutality during the United States presidential election. During the U.S. presidential election, alongside other terrorist groups, the Klan uses violence and intimidation to target black voters and also white Republicans, aiming to undermine Reconstruction and restore white supremacy across the great land of America. Forrest, he plays a key role in expanding the Klan's reach. Between February and March, he meets with racist whites in Atlanta, likely organizing a statewide Klan network in Georgia. 31st of March, 1868, the Klan strikes again. They assassinate prominent Republican organizer George Ashburn that did that in Columbus, Georgia. This is a chilling example of their tactics. Uh-oh.
Well, this is when the Republicans nominate old U.S. Grant, which is Forrest's wartime adversary, yes. They did that at their October convention, running on the slogan, "Let us have peace."
Like, who could run this country? Who?
The Klan, they seek to sabotage Grant's campaign. In Louisiana, around 1,000 black people are killed to suppress Republican voting. In Georgia, black and white Republicans face widespread violence.
Okay.
Klan's goal is clear. Intimidate voters to cripple the Republican Party, yes. Which supports black suffrage and Reconstruction, yes. But their terror campaign backfires.
Oh, does it? Because Grant, he wins the presidential election by a whopping 214 electoral votes. He has 214, and Democrat runner is Horatio Seymour's 80, so that's a beat down. Republicans secure a congressional majority. Popular vote is tighter, though. Grant earns 3,013,365, which is 52.7% of the vote. Seymour, he gets 2,708,744, which is 47.3%. That's still
not that much.
But guess what? Grant loses Georgia and Louisiana, where the Klan violence was most intense, showing the impact of their intimidation.
Right. In the wake of the election, old U.S. Grant and congressmen and Congress, they championed the 15th Amendment, which guarantees voting rights for the American men, regardless of race, color, or previous condition of servitude.
Oh.
To protect African Americans' rights to register, vote, hold office, and serve on juries, Grant and Congress passed the Enforcement Acts between 1870 and 71. Enforced by Grant and the newly established Department of Justice, These laws led to over 5,000 indictments and 1,000 convictions of KKK members across the South.
Damn. 27th of June, 1871. Almost the end of Pride Month, baby.
White Pride Month.
Right.
That's what it would have been then.
Yeah. 27th of June, 1871. Forrest, he's 49 now. He testifies before a congressional committee, which was investigating Klan activities. As the former Grand Wizard from 67 to 69, Forrest, he faces scrutiny, but he denies membership. He's like, nope. The committee's scope doesn't directly tie
me.
Right. The committee's scope doesn't directly tie him to the Klan, stating, our design is not to connect General Forrest with this order. The reader may form his own conclusion upon this question, basically. They also note that Forrest and other influential figures used their moral power to urge the Klan's disbandment, citing its natural tendency towards violence crime, which we said earlier. They're like, however, you did speak out against it, so...
And left, so
Right.
I guess we'll give you that. Biographer George Cantor, he describes Forrest's testimony as evasive. He says he ducked and weaved, denying all knowledge, but admitted he knew some of the people involved. He sidestepped some questions and pleaded failure of memory on others. Later, Forrest admits to gentlemanly lies, claiming he wanted no further ties to the Klan, but felt honor-bound to shield former associates.
Right. Come on, man. When you knew. August 1874, after a lynch mob in Tennessee, they kill 4 black individuals arrested for defending themselves during a brawl at a barbecue. Damn fucking barbecue.
A brawl at a barbecue? You don't say.
Forrest, he writes to Governor John Brown. He volunteers to lead a posse to punish the white martyrs, which is a striking offer from the former Confederate general. Brown, he politely declines. He said, Forrest, you've done enough for our cause. But Forrest's proposal hints at a shift in his stance on racial violence. Maybe he might be a racist. Maybe he doesn't like being violent about it.
Just massacred a whole fort. But
When I was younger, that's what he would say.
Everybody makes mistakes.
That was when I was a fool.
Young and dumb. Dude, you were 40-something then. We'd have been like
41.
almost 40. Yeah.
42.
January 1875, he travels to Nashville to oppose Andrew Johnson's Senate re-election, facing a field of candidates, including 4 ex-Confederate officers. Wait, Andrew Johnson went to Senate after being president?
I guess.
Good for him. This includes 4 ex-Confederate officers in the field, which is General John Brown, William Bate, W.A. Quarles, and Colonel John Savage. Historian Fay Brabson recounts how Johnson, who was a cunning politician, he flatters Forrest, saying, when the gods arrive, the half-gods depart.
Oh.
Suggesting that legislature should back Forrest for Senate over one-horse generals.
Okay.
Oh. Charmed, Forrest leaves for Memphis that night, abandoning the political fray and allowing Johnson to outmaneuver the competition.
Look at that
He
shit.
said,
Okay. It's the 5th of July, 1875. Forrest, he makes his final public appearance. He speaks before the Independent Order of the Pole Bearers Association, a black Southern organization advocating for economic improvement and equal rights. Look at these guys. Good for him. What the New York Times calls a friendly speech. Forrest, he encouraged black advancement and promotes harmony between black and white Americans. I have a dream. When a young black woman, which was the daughter of a Pole Bearers officer, offers him a bouquet, Forrest accepts, and he thanks her. And he kisses her on his cheek and then immediately puts alcohol on his lips. A gesture unthinkable for many ex-Confederates.
Yeah.
His words and actions signal a public pivot toward reconciliation.
Well, the backlash, as you would guess, is swift. July 30th, the Cavalry Survivors Association of Augusta, which is the first Confederate organization formed after the war, they condemned Forrest's speech.
Right.
Captain Francis Edgeworth Eve, who was a former Georgia Hussar soldier, he ridicules Forrest's judgment, insults the woman who gave him flowers as a mulatto wench.
Oh.
And that's why he did it, because she was half white. Probably looked more white than anything. Right. And they pushed the group to amend its constitution, banning any public association of white women with black women as equals.
Uh-oh.
The Macon Weekly Telegraph also slams Forrest. This is a public newspaper, by the way.
Yeah.
Calling his appearance a disgusting exhibition and quoting a Charlotte Observer piece that scorns him and General Gideon Pillow for equalizing with Negro women.
Oh, wow.
Contrasting them unfavorably with General James Longstreet, who openly aligns with black men for political gain.
Look at that.
The vitriol reveals the deep resistance among some ex-Confederates to Forrest's call for unity.
You're no better than Longstreet himself.
Just get over it, guys.
Right, holy shit. 29th of October, 1877. Forrest, who's now 56, he dies at his brother Jesse's home in Memphis, reportedly from acute complications of diabetes. Oh.
Diabetes.
His eulogy, delivered by former Confederate chaplain George Tucker Steinbach, which is now Forrest's spiritual mentor, he proclaims, Lieutenant General Nathan Bedford Forrest, though dead, yet speaketh. His acts have photographed themselves upon the hearts of thousands, and will seek there forever.
Or speak there. But, yeah.
The funeral procession on the 30th of October stretches over 2 miles, drawing an estimate of 20,000 people. Biographer Jack Hurst, he notes, many black citizens joined that crowd, which is a striking detail given Forrest's past as a slave trader, Confederate general, KKK Klan leader. What? KKK leader.
This is the Ku Klux Klan claim.
Klan. We allow black people in this one. This has reflected his late life gestures towards racial reconciliation.
The last 2 months.
Right.
Well, he's laid to rest at Elmwood Cemetery in Memphis with military honors and rights as a member of the Odd Fellows.
Oh, really?
He had helped raise funds for a Confederate monument there.
Right. He was.
Right. Which tying his legacy to the lost cause. In 1904, his and his wife Mary's remains were moved to a Memphis City park named Forest Park in his honor, later renamed Health Sciences Park.
Of course.
Statue of Forrest is erected, becoming a flashpoint for controversy. We'll get to that. July 7, 2015, the Memphis City Council unanimously votes to remove the statue.
I bet they did.
And they returned Forrest's remains to Elmwood Cemetery, spurred by growing calls addressed symbols of white supremacy.
That's bullshit. You shouldn't remove people's fucking remains.
Well, what about this guy?
Well, they shouldn't have moved it in the first place.
Well, right.
However, though, 13th of October, 2017, the Tennessee Historical Commission, citing the Tennessee Heritage Protection Act of 2013 and United States Public Law 85-425, it blocks this very move. Is that, you hold on one motherfucking minute. Memphis responds creatively, selling the park to Memphis Green Space, which is a nonprofit, non-bound by the act. Oh. The group swiftly removes the monument, marking a pivotal movement and reckoning the Forrest's legacy.
Oh.
Damn, they just want to shit all over him, man.
Well, Nathan, he's enshrined as a folk hero in Memphis, Tennessee, where he lived and died. Historian Court Carney argues that white Memphians, humiliated by their city's early surrender during the war, they crafted a distorted depiction of Forrest's wartime role to salvage civic pride. This hero worship fuels a strong Forrest cult among lost cause devotees, who romanticize the Confederacy's defeat. Yeah. Forrest's legacy as one of the most controversial and popular icons of the war remains a lightning rod for public debate.
2007, Tennessee boasted 32 historical markers.
Hysterical.
2007, Tennessee boasted 32 historical markers dedicated to Forrest, outnumbering those for Presidents Andrew Jackson, James K. Polk, Andrew Johnson, all combined.
And they're all Tennessee guys.
A testament to his enduring regional reverence. The Sons of the Confederate Veterans, a Tennessee-based group. It further cemented his status by awarding him their Confederate Medal of Honor in 1977. Cool.
As you would guess, just like a lot of other
Confederate... This time they just changed them around.
Right.
This time it was slave trader first, then general.
Yeah, switch it up. As you would guess, old Forrest, like many other Confederate guys, he had a lot of schools named after him.
Oh.
High schools in Chapel Hill, Tennessee, and Jacksonville, Florida bore his name, reflecting his status as a regional icon.
Right.
The Jacksonville School, Nathan Bedford Forrest High School, that was named in 1959, almost 100 years after the urging of Daughters of the Confederacy.
Okay.
Which is a deliberate act of defiance against the 1954 Brown v. Board of Education decision mandating school desegregation.
Okay.
So they got pissed that schools are segregated now, are desegregated, and they're like, we're going to name this after this. All you guys got to go to the school named after this guy.
Right. What was the white guy in the movie Roots? What was the owner's name?
I don't know. I've never seen it.
You never seen? You had to have seen Roots.
Never.
Back in school, they made you watch it.
Never.
Wow. The school remained all white until the year 1971.
Oh.
When Duval County schools were ordered to integrate.
1971?
Right. Damn. By the 2000s, over half its students' body was black. Highlighting the irony of a school named for a white supremacist serving a diverse community. 2008, Duval County School Board voted 5-2 to keep the name. Those two people were far no longer on the board after that. Oh, they kept the name.
Right.
They voted 5-2 to keep the name, resisting calls for a change. Like, no, fuck that. But just 5 short years later, amid growing awareness of Forrest's ties to slavery and the Klan, the board unanimously voted 7-0 to begin the renaming process.
Oh, jeez.
After public forums and discussions, the school was renamed West Side High School. This happened in January 2014. A unanimous decision reflected in a shift toward inclusivity. Similarly, Forest Hill Academy in Atlanta, Georgia, named for Forrest, was renamed Hank Aaron New Beginnings Academy in April 2021. I can go with that. Honoring the Atlanta Braves legend who died in January of 2021, which is a move celebrating a unifying figure over a divisive one.
He was also once celebrated at Middle Tennessee State University.
Oh, MTCU.
Mitsu. 1951, his likeness debuted as the official mascot in the school's yearbook, The Midlander, tying the university to his Confederate legacy. What are they? Middle Tennessee State University Bedford Forrest?
They
had no official nickname prior to 1934, when teams were called Normalites, Teachers, and Pedagogues. But their mascot, like their guy dressed up. So it was Forrest. It was Nathan Bedford Forrest. Somebody was dressed up as Forrest.
Lightning, wasn't that the name of his horse?
Maybe. He was their mascot from 1911 to 34. Well, by 1978, amid growing unease with the association, Middle Tennessee State, they removed Forrest's image from the university's official seal.
Oh, wow.
The Blue Raiders' athletic mascot, once explicitly linked to Forrest, was reimagined as a vague swashbuckler called the Blue Raider to distance it from the Confederacy.
Okay.
What do they call it? The Red Raider or the Gray Raider?
Right.
On January 17, 1998, during halftime of a basketball game against rival Tennessee State University, they unveiled a new mascot, which is a winged horse named Lightning, inspired by the mythological Pegasus, fully severing ties to Forrest's imagery.
Okay. 1958, university named its ROTC building Forrest Hall to honor him, complete with a decorative trim on the outside of the building depicting Forrest on horseback. That's cool. By 2006, protests led to the portrait's removal, reflecting shifting attitude towards Forrest's legacy of slavery and racial violence. A significant effort to rename Forrest Hall and gain traction, gained traction once again. But on February 16, 2018, the governor-controlled Tennessee Historical Commission denied MTSU's petition to change the name, citing the Tennessee Heritage Protection Act, once again, which restricts alterations to war memorials. The decision underscored the ongoing tension between preserving historical symbols and addressing their painful associations. Fuck off, you fucking bunch of pussies.
Well, 2011, the Sons of Confederate Veterans.
But my feelings.
All right. They proposed a Mississippi license plate to honor Nathan Bedford Forrest, sparking immediate backlash. Derek Johnson, president of the Mississippi NAACP, he condemns it, comparing Forrest to Osama bin Laden and Saddam Hussein due to his roles as a slave trader, Confederate commander, and Grand Wizard of the KKK.
Okay.
The NAACP petitions Governor Harley Barbour to denounce the plates and block their distribution, arguing they glorify a figure tied to racial violence. The governor, however, sidesteps a direct rebuke, stating that the state legislature is unlikely to approve it anyways, which he avoids a firm stance on the controversy.
Right.
That was his way of telling them to not approve it.
Right. In the year 2000.
In
2000, a monument of Forrest is unveiled in the Confederate Circle section of Old Live Oak Cemetery in Selma, Alabama. All right, leave that alone, right? It's the Confederate Circle section. The inscription hails him as a defender of Selma, wizard of the saddle, untutored genius, the first with the most, declaring the monument a testament of our perpetual devotion and respect for Forrest, and one of the South's finest heroes. It honors his unwavering defense of Selma, the great state of Alabama, and the Confederacy. This is ended with the Latin phrase, Deo Vindice, which is God will vindicate. Oh, wow.
The monument, celebrating Forrest's Civil War exploits, it reignites debate in Selma, which is a city synonymous with the 65 voting rights movement.
Why do people even give a shit? It's at a part where a bunch of Confederates are buried. It's right in the back of the cemetery.
If you don't want to see it, don't go
Right.
Go towards it.
Holy shit.
March 2012, the bust of Forrest is stolen from the monument, which is a bold act reflecting opposition to his veneration, yes. By May 2015, the bust is replaced, reaffirming the commitment of Forrest's supporters to his memory, even as his legacy of a symbol of white supremacy fuels ongoing protests.
Fuck off.
You guys have, you ain't seen nothing yet.
1905, Memphis erects its first Civil War memorial. It's a statue of Nathan Bedford Forrest. This is in a new Nathan Bedford Forrest park, cementing its name. He gets a park and a memorial. Fantastic. This cemented his status as a local icon. A century later, now it's 2005, Shelby County Commissioner Walter Bailey launches a campaign to relocate the statue, which stands over Forrest's grave, and rename the park, citing Forrest's ties to white supremacy.
This is the one where they sold it.
Former Mayor Willie Harrington, who is black, he blocks the effort, highlighting the complex local politics. Oh. Look at you, Willie.
Yeah, we already said that they sold it to the Health Sciences Park, which is a nonprofit, and they immediately take that shit out of there, which circumvents the act.
Right.
2015, Charleston church shooting reignites calls to remove Confederate symbols. That's when it all began. Tennessee lawmakers pushed to remove a Forrest bust from the state capitol. And then Mayor A.C. Wharton urges relocating the Health Sciences Park statue and reburying Forrest and his wife Mary at their original site in Elmwood. July 7, 2015, the Memphis City Council votes nearly unanimously to remove the statue and transfer the remains. However, like we just said, it's blocked, and then they sold it to a nonprofit.
Okay.
Which is, they removed it immediately.
All right.
And they got rid of not only a Forrest statue, but a Jefferson Davis one.
Of course, Jefferson Davis had to go.
The Confederate veterans, sons of the Confederate veterans, they threatened a lawsuit. In retaliation, April 18, 2018, the Tennessee House, they cut $250,000 from Memphis's bicentennial funding.
Damn.
The campaign to remove Forrest's legacy, galvanized by the Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville, is led by Shelby County Commissioner Tammy Sawyer, who founded Take 'em Down 901 to dismantle Confederate iconography. Iconography? Sure. June 3rd, 2021, the remains of Forrest and his wife were exhumed from the park, where they had rested for over a century.
This is sad.
They were initially moved to Munford, Tennessee, and then reburied in Columbia, Tennessee, by the Sons of the Confederate Veterans.
Ridiculous.
Wow.
Gives a fuck where people are buried. Son of a bitch. Tennessee legislature designated July 13th, Nathan Bedford Forrest's birthday. Didn't know you can just pick a day.
Well, that's not what it did,
the Tennessee's legislature designated 13th of July, with his Forrest's birthday, as Nathan Bedford Forrest Day, celebrating the Confederate general, slave trader, and KKK Grand Wizard. As of 2019, the holiday remained in place, so we don't know what happened in the last 6 years. Requiring the governor to sign an annual proclamation, despite efforts by some Democratic lawmakers to repeal it, citing Forrest's ties to white supremacy, obviously. The observance became a lightning rod, symbolizing the state's struggle to reconcile its Confederate past with demands of the New World.
Basically. June 2020, Governor Bill Lee's, he's William Lee, Bill Lee. His administration introduced a bill passed by the Tennessee legislature June 10th that eliminated the mandate for governors to proclaim Nathan Bedford Forrest Day. A spokesperson for Lee confirmed he would not issue a proclamation in July 2020, effectively halting official state recognition of the holiday.
Wow.
The same month, black members of the Tennessee House of Representatives, they pushed to abolish the celebration entirely, but they were unsuccessful. Representative Cameron Sexton, he defended the legislative resistance. He stated, "I don't think anybody here is truly racist. I think people may make insensitive comments." I remarked, you guessed it, that sparked criticism for downplaying the holiday's racial implications.
Blah, blah, blah. Here we fucking go. A bust of Forrest, sculpted by Jane Baxendale. It stood in the Tennessee state capitol, Nashville, for the longest of time, honoring the Confederate general, slave trader, KKK Grand Wizard. 2021 calls to remove it intensified.
That's going to be the title of this episode. Nathan Bedford Forrest, Confederate general, slave trader, KKK Grand Wizard.
In 2021, calls to remove it intensifies, reflecting broader scrutiny of Confederate symbols. Brett Joseph Forrest, a direct descendant of Nathan, publicly supported the bust removal.
Oh, what a fucking
breaking with those who venerate his ancestors' legacy. Wow. The Tennessee legislature voted on relocating the bust to Tennessee State Museum. This is a move to contextualize rather than celebrate Forrest's history. Put it in context, baby.
I mean, I guess that would be put it in the museum and exhibit it and explain what he did.
Representative Cameron Sexton opposed the removal, arguing it aligns with the teaching of communism, a provocative claim that drew criticism. Only one other legislator sided with him, and the bust was removed. They should have made those two remove it. Marking a significant shift in Tennessee's public memory.
Yeah, that's what they're doing, erasing.
Yeah.
Well, Nathan Bedford Forrest, a Confederate general with no formal military training, he's hailed by historian Spencer Tucker as one of the Civil War's most brilliant tacticians. Forrest's philosophy was stark, he says. War means fighting, and fighting means killing. And victory came from getting there first with the most men. Right. That's not necessarily true. This mantra defined his approach, earning him the nickname That Devil Forrest.
Oh.
And that came from old William Tecumseh Sherman.
Yeah, that guy. That guy has a reputation of his own.
Yeah, look into him. In wartime exchanges with the old Grant, Sherman called Forrest the most remarkable man our Civil War produced on either side.
No shit. Forrest, he pioneered maneuver tactics. He leveraged the mobility of his horse cavalry to outpace and outsmart opponents. He embraced mobile warfare principles, later central to 20th century conflicts, emphasizing rapid movement, even at the cost of exhausting his horses. His raids disrupted United States supply trains, communications by destroying railroad tracks and cutting those telegraph lines, often circling around enemy flanks to strike where least expected. Civil War scholar Bruce Catton, he notes Forrest's ability to keep opponents off balance, cementing his reputation as a master of cavalry warfare. He says, Forrest,
he's a Civil War general.
Forrest used his horsemen as a modern general would use motorized infantry. He liked horses because he liked fast movement. And his mounted men could get from here to there much faster than any infantry could, obviously. But when they reached the field, they usually tied their horses to trees and fought on foot. And they were as good as the very best infantry.
Good for them.
Right. Fantastic.
Well, he's often credited with the colorful phrase, to get our fustest with the mostest, as a summary of his battlefield strategy, frequently recast as getting there firstest with the mostest. This catchy aphorism first surfaced in a New York Tribune article, crafted to add flair to European fascination with Civil War generals. However, a 1918 New York Times story corrected the record, quoting Forrest as saying, "Ma'am, I got there first with the most men." While the misquote is a snappy distortion, it captures the essence of Forrest's military principles, which is mass and maneuver.
Oh, fantastic. By prioritizing rapid movement, concentrating force outpaced and overwhelmed his opponents, as seen in raids in the battles like Bryce's Crossroads. Civil War scholar Bruce Catton, he says, despite inspurious origins, the quote reflects Forrest's knack for striking swiftly and decisively, cementing his legend as a master of mobile warfare. And he went on to say, do not under any circumstances whatever quote Forrest as saying fustus and mostus. He did not say that way. And nobody even knows anything about him, imagines that he did.
Jeez, take it easy,
Bruce. Bullshit.
Jeez, Brucey, calm down, buddy. Well, military historian Christopher Rain, he says he did say that. No, I'm just kidding. They would do. He offers a sobering assessment of Forrest, while acknowledging his skill as perhaps the Confederacy's finest cavalryman and his shrewdness in smaller engagements, like the First Battle of Murfreesboro, Bryce's Crossroads, and Parker's Crossroads. Rain argues these victories were strategically marginal, often achieved through bluff or against weaker foes. That's mass, yeah. Forrest's personal bravery and penchant for leading from the front, charging into the fray, and won admiration from both sides during the war.
Wow. Well, he also contends that such traits are better suited to junior officers or enlisted men.
Yeah, you probably don't want your head guy doing this.
Right, not generals tasked with broader strategic vision. Take an example of this. In Selma of 1865, Forrest's focus on leading troops to Ebenezer Church rather than fortifying defenses led to a crushing defeat that destroyed the Confederacy's last manufacturing hub, effectively ending the war.
Sure did.
Rain further critiques Forrest's performance within larger Confederate operations. His tendency to act independently, bypassing superiors, it's often backfired on him. Take a look at Chickamauga in 1863 with his failure to coordinate weakened General Braxton Bragg's victory.
Yeah.
Couldn't do it.
Also, Tupelo, 1864, his escape came at the cost of his ability to to disrupt William Sherman's supply lines.
Okay.
The success at Johnsonville later that year, though tactically brilliant, it delayed General John Bell Hood's Tennessee advance, which allowed General George Thomas to fortify Nashville from the U.S.
Yes.
The resultant Union victory there in December of 1864 obliterated the Army of the Tennessee and collapsed the Confederacy's Western Theater campaign.
It did.
Yeah.
And the worst military leaders in history?
Oh, this guy don't like him.
Rain argues that Forrest's glorification, particularly among minimally educated Southern United States military cadets, who see him as embodying lost cause virtues, has harmed U.S. military performance long term, he says. Oh, wow. This mythologizing, tied to the romanticized Confederate narrative, overshadows Forrest's strategic shortcomings and perpetuates a flawed motto of leadership. He says, great leadership is only one aspect of command. Forrest was certainly a skilled tactician, but great commanders must have strategic vision or some semblance of how their victories translate into successful operations and ultimately into strategic victory. Otherwise, the commander runs the risk of falling into the same traps set for American commanders in Vietnam or Iraq, winning an unbroken string of tactical victories but never translating those successes into the strategic conditions necessary for a decisive victory.
Oh, so what? You ran these guys out of this neighborhood, but what are you going to do now?
Right. Damn, he just put that in with the Vietnam and Iraq.
Right. April 12th, 1864, his Confederate forces attacked Fort Pillow. We know this is one of his criticisms. Which was defended by 295 white soldiers and 262 black soldiers of the U.S. Modern historians analyzing the high casualty rates and the targeted killing of black soldiers and white soldiers conclude the assault was a massacre.
It was.
2/3 of black troops were killed compared to 1/3 of the whites. Forrest claimed the massacre was a fabrication by U.S. reporters, but letters from Confederate soldiers to the families detailing extreme brutality contradict him.
Oh, you already know that. Damn. These accounts describe indiscriminate slaughter, including shooting, surrendering, and wounded black soldiers, aligning with the Confederacy's stated policy. Former slaves fighting whites and Southern whites loyal to the Union, deemed traitors, were to be killed on sight. That's what the old Confederacy said. Mm-hmm. Historians, they argue that Forrest's troops acted on this policy, targeting black soldiers with lethal intent. The historical record undermines Forrest's repeated denials of knowledge about the massacre, either during or after the event.
He even left it out of his war report.
He did. Evidence suggests he was aware of it and likely complicit of it, given his command and the systematic nature of the killings, right? He's the command, and, I mean, come on, how do you not know this is happening?
Well, the massacre, it casts a long shadow over his life. The stigma of the massacre, marked by its racial brutality, dogged Forrest both professionally and personally, contributing to his post-war business struggles as his reputation as a war criminal and alienated potential partners and creditors. Historian Richard Fuches, in an Unerring Fire, condemns the event as an orgy of death, a mass lynching, driven by intentional murder rooted in racism and personal enmity. Enmity.
Andrew Ward.
I mean, look,
he addresses
the go home cue, guys.
Right. Andrew Ward addresses the debate over whether the massacre was planned or spontaneous. He says, it certainly did happen, in every dictionary sense of the word, emphasizing its undeniable horror. John Simprich, he notes a shift in historical perspective, staying the new paradigm in the social attitudes and the fuller use of available evidence was favored as a massacre. He highlights how the event fueled sectional and racial conflicts for decades, but recent interpretations offer hope for moving beyond past intolerance. The site of Fort Pillow is now observed as a Tennessee State Historical Park, which is a place of reflection on this dark chapter. Even USS Grant.
Grant.
Right. Even General Grant, while praising Forrest as a brave and intrepid cavalry general, criticizes Fort Pillow dispatch for omitting the part which shocked humanity to read, underscoring the massacre's moral weight.
Okay, that's where we end old Nathan Bedford Forrest, who was a Civil War general, a slave trader, and a KKK leader.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, what are you going to say about the guy? He clearly,
with no military training.
And he clearly was a racist guy.
Yeah.
No doubt about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll leave it at that. There's already a long episode for this guy, and there's nothing more we can say about the old Civil War general, slave trader, and KKK leader. So, Yeah, we'll be back.
Former presidential candidate.
A former presidential candidate, and
No, he wasn't. Was
he
he?
never ran for
All right,
president.
that's right.
Well, whatever. Did a lot of things. Racist. Yeah, that's it for us. And this is episode of Behind the Battles. We'll be back next week for another Union generale. Maybe we'll finally get to Sherman or Sheridan, one of those two guys. But it's going to be a long... both of those guys might even be two parts because they do a lot after the war as well.
They're crazy humans.
Yeah, so we'll be back next week for more old Behind the Battles of the Civil War.
Maybe we do Frederick Douglass or something.
Yeah, either way, we'll be back for something.
All right.
Yeah, maybe something that led up to the war.
Who knows?
Who knows? Either or, we'll still be back next week for more Battles of the American Civil War. Behind the Battles. We'll see you then. We are the Mother Music Industry.
Bang, bang.